So the Game Awards happened last week, and if you're like me, you're excited to hear that certain PlayStation exclusives are about to be rebirthed, so to speak, on PC. And I'm also sure that this won't be the last of us hearing about PlayStation exclusives being ported to PC. It's Sunday, so let's get sensational. I'm Mike, and I'm back to talk about the gaming news. And there was plenty of news to talk about from the Game Awards, but I really don't cover individual game announcements that often. I tend to focus more on industry and hardware news. But in this case, there are two games that were announced at the Game Awards that I do want to talk about because it symbolizes a shift in strategy from two companies. So first, let's talk about Sony. They announced The Last of Us Part 2 is coming to PC on April 3rd of next year. It's going to feature all the additional modes that the PS5 version has, and of course it's probably going to have the graphical improvements from that version and beyond if you have the right graphics card. But the real reason I'm talking about this is because Sony this generation has been bringing their games to other platforms, mostly PC. But back in February, Sony's president Hiroki Totoki stated they wanted to be more aggressive with bringing games multi-platform, and a lot of it has to do with gaming revenue being down over the last couple of years, and being able to sell those super expensive games to other install bases that they're not directly competing with makes a lot of sense. So PC and even Nintendo's platforms are safe bets, as we recently saw Lego Horizon released on PS5 and Switch. So this just seems to be part of Sony's new aggressive strategy they were talking about earlier this year with wanting to put more games on PC faster. With them already having Last of Us Part 1 on PC, this seemed like it was obviously coming. Now another company that's decided to push multi-platform releases is Square. They have been doing timed exclusives with PlayStation for some of their mainline Final Fantasy games for, well, a long time. But earlier this year in March, similar to Sony, they said they wanted to be more aggressive with pursuing multi-platform game releases. So they initially released Final Fantasy 16 and Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth as timed exclusives for PlayStation, and 16 recently got released on PC. And at the Game Awards, they announced that Rebirth is also coming to PC next month. So Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth hits PC on January 23rd, and just under a year since it was released on PS5, which is a way shorter window than their previous games. Obviously, it was an expensive game to make, and they probably want to maximize their profits, so it makes sense to release it on other platforms. Now, there's no word if they'll put it on Xbox, but if they're after the money, I wouldn't completely rule it out. For Square, I'm curious if they're still going to do timed exclusives with Sony for future games like Part 3 of the Final Fantasy 7 Remake trilogy, especially with the original game kind of being synonymous with PlayStation, or if they'll release on PC on day one with the PS5 version. Now, of course, Sony is at risk of losing that exclusivity with Square Enix, but they may be working out a new deal with Apple. There's been a somewhat secret partnership going on with Apple and Sony, and it's related to VR. So both Sony and Apple are in weird spaces when it comes to VR for a somewhat similar reason. You could say that both released a headset that was a bit too expensive for the audience they were targeting. Sony released the PSVR 2 for $550, which is more expensive than the PS5 itself, and it has been on sale recently for $350. I picked one up a few months ago when it was on sale, but until recently, the $550 was a full price. And Apple, of course, their headset is over $3,000, and while the tech is cool, they also decided not to do controllers and use hand tracking, which works well for computing tasks, but not as well for games, which is half of what VR is known for. And Sony, their headset's pretty much just good for gaming, and that's it. But they have branched out recently with the PSVR 2. They made that PC adapter, making it usable on PC, but it looks like they may be making the hardware usable elsewhere as well. So this is a rumor, but Mark Gurman is reporting that Apple approached Sony to make the PSVR 2 controllers compatible with the Apple Vision Pro. Apparently they plan to have support for the controllers ready by this point, but have run into some technical issues. And I actually think this makes sense for both companies. I mean, Apple needs controllers if they want VR games to be a thing on their headset, and Sony, they just need to move hardware, so the pairing makes sense. So maybe once Apple Vision Pro gets real controllers, we'll see some more popular games like Beat Saber finally come to the headset. Alright, now is the part of the video where we talk about layoffs, and this week it's from People Can Fly. So People Can Fly is a Polish-based company. They're probably best known for Gears of War Judgment, Bulletstorm, and more recently Outriders. Well, they've announced that they're laying off 120 members of their staff. They previously laid off 30 people back in January, and their total headcount that was mentioned on their website before the layoffs was 700, so that's actually a large portion of their staff. The PC Gamer article gives more details on what may have led to this. So back in 2022, they decided to drop their publishing deal with Take-Two and self-publish their games. They also had a game that they were developing with Take-Two that was canceled last year. It's also mentioned in the article that they ran into some issues with self-publishing in general, so it appears that there are several factors that led up to the layoffs. Now, the official reason that People Can Fly gave was external market pressures that were beyond what was forecasted for. Now, I'm hoping that the employees get some kind of support as they try to find new jobs. It wasn't mentioned in the official statement, and I'm not sure what Poland's laws are as far as companies supporting employees through layoffs, but hopefully they're at least offered some kind of severance package from the company. All right, to transition from the bad news and into, well, something else, I guess, let's talk about how long it's taken for GTA 6 to come out. Some would say it's taking ages, and that happens to be the title of the game listed on the PlayStation Store. So a fake game that was parodying GTA somehow snuck past Sony's checks and ended up being listed on the PlayStation Store. So on December 7th, Grand Taking Ages 6 went up on the PlayStation Store. It used AI-generated art to parody GTA's art style. It listed fake awards from like IGN and GameSpot. Now, according to the IGN article, the game was supposed to put the player in charge of running their own game studio while juggling angry fans, corporate chaos, and endless delays. It was supposed to release in May of 2025. Well, that is if it was actually a real game. So all the sources I saw said it wasn't a real game behind it. The page was just a parody that snuck past Sony's checks and has now been removed. The good news is it doesn't seem like they were charging anything for it since it was an upcoming game. So at least there's not a situation where Sony has to do refunds. I mean, I hope in that case no one would have fallen for it and bought the game, but you never know with people. But I do know that we got more news about the Switch 2, which is coming out eventually. Let's just go ahead and talk about it today in our final story. So last week we had some Switch 2 accessories go up for sale on Alibaba, and then we also had the alleged video of the leaked controllers. Now, I thought both the leaks were kind of sketchy, especially the accessories going up for sale because, I mean, they're on Alibaba. But now, a way more legit company, or at least well-known, has listed the Switch 2 case for sale on their site and claims to have dimensions for the console, and that company is DBrand. So if you're not familiar with DBrand, they sell skins, cases, and some other accessories for gaming consoles and phones. I bought a DBrand skin for my Steam Deck and did a video on it a few years ago, and their stuff is usually pretty good quality. Plus, if you watch tech YouTube, you've probably seen like 1,000 advertisements for them. Well, they've listed the Switch 2 kill switch case on their site, which they claim was created from a 3D scan of the real hardware. We did have that leak a couple months ago where scans of the system got out there, but of course no one was sure if they were legit or not. But DBrand has commented and said that they have actual scans of the system and they know they're legit. So I'm not sure if that's Nintendo that started to send out the dimensions to accessory makers, or if they got it some other way, but they're claiming that this is the real deal. Now, the big takeaways from this, from the picture of the case, is that the system is bigger, which lines up with the rumor about it having an 8-inch screen and being slightly bigger. And the right joy-con has a new button, which DBrand confirmed is a C button. There were some other leaks that came out this week as well that showed off the console, and it did have that C button on the controller, and it showed 2 USB-C ports, one at the bottom and one at the top, which would be nice to have a top port for charging if you want to charge it that way. The controller leaks from last week with the blurry 2006 webcam video also line up because you can see the C button in that video as well. So at least with DBrand confirming the dimensions, we know that it's probably going to be larger and have that 8-inch screen. The other things we can assume is that it's probably going to have the magnetically attaching Joy-Cons and possibly 2 USB-C ports and a weird C button that no one knows what it does, but it's Nintendo, so it'd probably do something weird. But let me know what you think down below in the comments. Do you think DBrand actually got a hold of real Switch 2 dimensions? Again, let me know down below. And if you enjoyed this video, then make sure to tell a friend, tell a coworker, like, share, subscribe, and hit that bell notification button thing to be notified of a video or a live stream. And always do at least 2 things at the same time.